People power growth, but recruiting and onboarding are expensive, exhausting, and absolutely overwhelming. I've been there, and it doesn't have to be this way. Welcome to Hire and Empower. I'm your host, Molly McGrath. Join me as we interview leaders who care about their teams and distill powerful lessons from them. This show is sponsored by H&E, helping organizations to find their best hire and empower them for success. Learn more at hiringandempowering.com. All right, gang, we have a repeat offender or a repeat value creator. How about that one with us today? Oh,
Hello.
I'm so excited. Melissa from velocitywork.com. I'm so excited to have you again. We had you here a bit ago talking about quarterly strategic planning retreats. We talked about accountability. We talked about high results cycles. We talked about low results cycle. And we ended the podcast with saying, I always say I want to bring a guest back, but very rarely can we get our calendars to sync or keep the feeling and the mojo going, what have you. And you and I are like, we have to bring this conversation. We're sitting here on the precipice of the year end, the new year, anxiety is high. People are kind of wandering around, either clubbing themselves because of what they haven't done. They're shitting all over themselves and they're having anxiety about what's 2023 going to look like when they can't get out of the weeds of 2020. And everywhere you turn, everybody's like, now is the time. New Year's planning, year-end planning. Are you ready? Are you going to get caught? Is your business going to go up in flames? All the things. And it's funny because I'm getting phone calls now from people with this low vibration panic around, really chasing strategy all over the place. And what I love about what you shared in our last podcast, which I keeps ringing in my ear, is what was missing in your previous career is you go in, you show up, you're pumped up, you would do everything, do this quarterly retreat, have an amazing plan, everybody's hugging, cheersing, so exciting, and then falls flat, missing the consistent, persistent accountability. So today you're going to really dive into getting your firm into high result cycles and how to know how to recognize it and how to get in there. So I'm really excited about our conversation today. Thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me back. This kind of stuff I could talk about forever. It's fun to get the opportunity to do that with you because we could go forever on this kind of thing.
I know we can. And, I bet right now we're sitting here, it's November, beginning of the end of the year, and you're coming off of massive strategic retreats with your clients. And now you're sitting in beautiful Breckenridge waiting for your team to fly in to kind of walk your talk and have your team come in for a strategic retreat. Huh?
Yeah. I'm very excited. We have one coming in from Miami, one coming in from Ohio. And then those are the two key team members we're having for this leadership retreat, essentially. We have a lot of fun things in store this week that I'm trying to give ourselves more space because it is close to the end of the year and plan out further. We have a strengths finders coach coming in to work with us.
Yes.
So I think it'll be a well-rounded time. We'll get a lot of work done, but we'll have a lot of fun together all at the same time. So I'm looking forward to it. This is definitely
Make a note and send me your Strengths Finder coach, because I'd love to have them on my podcast. So many of my clients use Strength Finder, Colby, what have you. And I'd love to bring them in and feature them because that would be a great value add for our
my gosh. She'd be great on the podcast. Yes.
Awesome.
Definitely.
All right. Make an intro.
Okay. I will.
So let's talk about this. I was fascinated. We ran out of time knowing when you're in a low result cycle or high result cycle and how to get your firm into, obviously, everybody wants to be in a high result cycle.
I mean, what's funny when we talk about this, because when people hear this, they think they could put two and two together. They think, okay, high results cycle or low results cycle, and they'll start kind of evaluating all the different areas of their world. And am I in high or am I in low? But here's one thing I want to say. It's actually most helpful if you just constrain down to look at a couple of different things, because we're not going to be in a high result cycle with every aspect of our lives at any given point. That's just not uh, realistic or sustainable. But there's certain things that you're striving for or that you really desire to have happen, just results that you want to create for yourself and for your firm. Those things are good to evaluate using kind of what we'll talk about today. So you can almost beat yourself up if you start to look at all the areas where it's like, well, I don't know if I'm in a high result cycle. I think I'm in a low result cycle. It doesn't matter. It's kind of the same idea when people talk about balance and how much of a it's like a false idea to have this balance, especially as a business owner. And it's the same thing. If you're going to measure, am I perfectly balanced in every area? Am I perfectly striving in every area? No. And if you were, you'd be missing the point of all of this. So I guess that feels important to say off the bat. So for listeners, if you can think of something that you are striving for, and whatever word resonates, you're pushing for, you are creating results on purpose for, there's something that you're being deliberate about. Maybe you're not 100%, maybe there's room for improvement, but there's something in your mind's eye that there's like a destination, a pin in the map that you're trying to go for. This can be a really useful tool to make sure that you are being efficient with your actions and how you spend your time, and making sure that you're not spinning and not really getting anywhere with it. So you want me to say more?
Okay. Keep going. Go.
Okay. So once you have that thing in your mind, and let's just say, just for simplicity's sake, let's say it's a revenue goal for your firm. You really want to get to this revenue goal. And there's a lot of things that have to line up for that revenue to happen. It's not just about the money, right? So team, I mean, we're talking to the master here on team. So team has to line up, systems and processes have to line up. But it's like, if you want to hit the revenue goal, you have to be very intentional about a bunch of different things in order for that revenue goal to happen. The results cycle, this concept of the results cycle, has you evaluate. There are 3 control points that you and all of us have at any given moment. And are you taking control where you can take control with each of those things? The 3 things are your thoughts or your mindset, your perspective, your attitude is another way to say it, your feeling state, or your internal state, emotional state, and your actions. Now, there are always exceptions to the rule. So every once in a while, I'll have someone push up on me and say, well, you can't always control your feeling state. That may be true, but majority of the time you can. You just have to learn how to take the reins. And most people of those 3 control points that will either spit you into a high result cycle or a low result cycle, most people focus on action only. And action is a very important piece of it. But if you understand what's driving the action, which is the thoughts and the feelings that come before you actually execute anything in the world, then you're taking the reins in a much more powerful way. It's almost like a 3-legged stool and you're only going to use one leg. And so I always say that results that you create when you're only focusing on action only, they're slippery. It's hard to actually, it's like you can get them, but you can't keep them because you haven't really looked at all 3 control points. You haven't considered all 3 control points. And the first 2 are arguably, I was going to say arguably more important, but they're equally as important as the actions that you take.
Say that again. Results that you focus on only when you're focused on action.
Results that you create, but where you're only focused on action
are
slippery.
Love
because just because you can get it doesn't mean you can have it for good. I mean, it's easy to kind of grab something. It's almost like the people that flame up and flame out. I'm guilty of this. I think we all are.
We all are.
Where it's like, okay, you buckle down and you do the action to get, to lose the 5 pounds or to get this bump in revenue or to whatever. There's always something like you double down on action to do it, you will get it. You probably will get it. But to stay there, it's almost like there you have an opportunity to focus on things, to take the reins on things that help you become the kind of person that makes that result just inevitable. Instead of having to chase it and get it, it's more holistic. It's a more holistic approach when you think about, what is my perspective around this? What are my opinions about the possibilities here? What are my opinions about the barriers that I'm going to be facing? This is all mindset stuff. And having a look at it and having an awareness around it forces you to make some decisions about, you want to keep those opinions? Maybe they're great and you say yes, but oftentimes there's little cobwebs, in our brain that's not really serving us. And then the feeling states come from what you're thinking. So a very simple way to put it is, if you want to stack this: thoughts, feelings, actions, a very simple way to put it is, if you are thinking low quality thoughts, you will feel low quality feeling states and you will take low quality action. It's almost like when you say it like that, it's like, well, yeah, if you're thinking something, I guess on the drastic end, like if you're shooting for a revenue goal and you think, well, this isn't really possible. I mean, what am I doing here? I don't have the team. I don't have the stuff. Like your whole bend mentally is fighting for your limitations. Even if it feels like truth, even if it feels like a fact,
even if you
useful.
have evidence, and I hear this all the time. I think this is really important to highlight. I just had aha. Low quality thoughts, low quality feelings, low quality actions. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. They said, here's my goal, $200,000 a month, period. End of story. We're going to make this, right? I'm like, awesome. And we start talking about that and we talk about the actions, right? And guess what I get met with? We've already tried that and it didn't work. We've already tried that and it didn't work.
Yeah. Right. I mean, yes, exactly. So it's almost then the underlying belief or thought is something like, well, certainly nothing works for us that everybody is telling us to try. Like that's not helpful or useful. Or just that, I don't see a path forward. There isn't a way. I don't know the way. That's a thought. I don't know the way. Even if you think that's true, actually think about what that produces. That produces nothing. It's an unuseful thought. It's an unhelpful thought to where you want to go. So, and this is where I think this is hard. And that's why people don't focus on it as much. It's so much easier to focus on action because it's tangible and you're proud of yourself, and that's good. But focusing on the stuff where if you get really honest and you write down what are all your opinions and beliefs and thoughts and attitudes about where it is you're trying to go, being really honest, not positive Polly, because that's not real either. So like, let the toddler out, let the inner toddler out and write all your stuff down. And when you look at it, it's like, it feels true to me. Like that all feels true. And I know that that's probably not positive and that's probably not useful, but that all feels really true. If you don't get it out of your head and onto paper or in front of you in some way, it just hides. It just drives the bus and you don't even know it's driving the bus. So I think paying attention to what is happening in your mind, which first step is to get it out of your head and onto paper. Then you can have a look at it and decide. Sometimes when I do that, I'll look at something that's ridiculous, like clearly not helpful. And I'll think, oh, well, that's silly. And it feels easy to just let it go. And there's other times where it feels so true. It feels so hard to open up to a different way of thinking about it. But at least now I know that it's in there and that is clearly going to create, like, all the results that I get in life are going to line up with how I was thinking about all of this. So if I have a lot of doubt and fear and frustration or skepticism, like what you said yesterday, skeptical, or they feel like it's certainty, it doesn't work for them, but they're just skeptical because they've tried it once and it doesn't work, or they've, there's like a skepticism that isn't really healthy it will keep them spinning. So I think it's good to look at everything, even if it feels sticky, like you can't really let go of it yet. If you believe that it starts here, then at least you can see that the results you're going to get are going to clearly be driven from that. And just that awareness creates a little wiggle room as you move forward to seeing maybe other possibilities. I don't know if I'm getting too far in the weeds. You can
No,
stop me.
I love this because I'm even thinking about this low quality thoughts, low quality feelings, low quality actions, have low quality, low quality
Mhm.
actions. So let's take the example of even I need to make X amount a month, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the what we call in our coaching program the gremlins. So the gremlins are up there, and these are your thoughts and then
Mhm.
your feelings of how you feel of everything. So you have this, what's that saying? If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so the next thing that comes is that people have this comparison thing too,
Mhm.
right? So I would assume this is when you're in a low quality cycle, you have the
Mhm.
goal, you
Mhm.
have what you want, like you want it so bad, you sleep, drink, eat, think it's in your bones, your blood, what have you. You lament, you pace, you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning about it. You're strategizing about it on the yoga
Mhm.
mat or the, walks or the spin Peloton, whatever it is. And
Mhm.
then the comparison comes into, I see people even yesterday, they're like, well, I go to all these amazing, $1 million, $8 million programs and, 8 figure. And I'm seeing all my colleagues that are doing it. I know they're doing it. They're not full of shit. I know they're doing it. And how did they do it? And you're like, the plan I just told you to
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
know I coached them. This is
Yeah.
the plan. Their plan's no different. Like the
Yeah.
plan to make money for all of us, whether you own a law firm or you own a consulting firm or you own a CPA firm or a financial advisory firm or whatever it might be, it's no different. You and I are in EOA.
Mhm.
We have the same tools, and there are people that are in ecom. There are people in all
Mhm.
over different industries. I mean, my coach in EOA is an ecom. He's a $9 million business,
Mhm.
$9 million a year business, and he sells survival camping gear, ecom.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's
But
so
I'm
great.
like, tell me the strategy, what have you? No different than the one you and I have, really.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I mean, truthfully, even though it can look a little different in terms of what gets executed,
Yes.
it is I keep coming back to this. I think people hate how simple this is and so they don't give it credit, but I swear to you it matters. You have to make a plan. Like you have to know what you're aiming for, you have to make a plan and you have to honor the plan. That's it. If you
Yes.
do those things on repeat and your plan is not ever going to go as according to plan. So that's not
Never.
the point. It's just you you get really intentional about your moves and you get intentional about what
Oh,
you're going to track. You get
I love
intentional
it.
about everything. And then it's your job to go honor that plan that you intentionally thought out and not change your mind in the middle, not flake out on it because, oh, that wasn't a good plan. It's almost like we trust ourselves more in the moment when we decide to like just kind of let the plan go. Our focus shifts. Oh, that wasn't the right thing. I'm going to do something else instead. You're trusting yourself in that moment in the middle of a busy day instead of when you sat down to really intentionally think through your plan for the quarter as an example. That is that is your brain's way of getting out of follow through. That is it. It's not better. Your idea probably isn't better in the moment. And even if it is, just wait, implement it at the end of the 90 days, honor what you said you were going to do. If you can be that kind of a
Mm,
person, then you're going to create results really fast. But people don't honor their plans because, I mean, fill in the blank. There's all kinds of reasons and justifications and excuses that our brain will give us that feel so valid, but it's irrelevant. It's about like being intentional with how you're with your best moves, next best moves, and then
oh,
following and honoring those next best moves. And then you reevaluate and you shift your plan again.
oh my God.
So I think it's just people want to make it more complex because it is. I mean, we're business owners. We're not law firm owners, but we're business owners. And we do understand it's the same no matter what business you own. It's so easy to overcomplicate things in your head. And it really isn't that complex. There may be something that's complex that you need help with,
Sure.
guidance on how to think through an equation or how to whatever. But really, business is not complex. You sit down and you think and you use your brain about how can you see and you get you get good input from others that you trust around you. Okay, what are my next priorities? All right, let's go. And then you do those things, and then you lift your head after you've like had your head down and executed. Then you lift your head at whatever cadence you want. I like quarterly. And then you say, okay, how did that go? Let's do a review. Now let's look forward. And all of this, as we come back to the results cycle, this is taking the reins where you can. What isn't putting you in a high result cycle is not being intentional with how you're thinking about things, with the feeling, like being very in tune with what do you need to feel that will drive the action you know you need to take consistently. Do you need to feel driven? Do you need to feel determined? Do you need to feel calm and confident? Disciplined? Like, what is it? What do you need to call on right now? Because there's always a different flavor depending on where you are in life and the chapter you are in the season of your business. But what is it in the next 90 days that you need to call on and you need to feel on purpose? Don't just wait for the world to hand it to you. It's not going to. So if you want to feel disciplined, what do you need to be telling yourself so that you feel disciplined? And when you feel disciplined, you act with discipline. So it's almost like, how do you line yourself up? And it's a practice. There's no perfection with this. It's just a practice of learning how to line yourself up with the right kind of actions that will produce the right kind of results. But doing so first, thinking from mindset, like what's going on in your head and what's going on internally, so that you just invariably take the actions that need to be taken. It's not, I'm going to take these actions so I can get this result. No, I'm going to think this way so that I feel disciplined. And when I feel disciplined, I act with discipline. And when I do that, I go much faster towards the results I want. It's not going to be perfect, but yeah.
That just, wow. I love that formula you just walked us through. So, that's when you're in a high vibration cycle, because you're you keep saying, and I love it, on purpose,
Yeah.
intentional, and you are so clear. And if you're a master to this formula, I'm even thinking of myself. Today is day 2 is 75 hard. I'm doing it again.
Congratulations.
And it's funny because even this morning in my mastermind group, I use the word, I'm a really committed person. I'm an intense person. I am very intentional person, what have you. But this time around, now you're helping me solidify it. This is what I'm going to be my high result. I like the word discipline. I'm focusing on that, my thoughts. I, want to get out of intermittent fasting, or I want to have a glass of wine, or what have you. That's the thought. I don't want to go out and do my 45-minute walk at 10 o'clock at night, or what have you. Now, mind you, this 75 hard for me, which you and I both know, and Melissa's done a phenomenal call on the podcast on this. I'll put in the show notes to listen to, because I really listened to that podcast you and Chris did. But I don't want to is the thought,
Well, it's really truthfully,
feeling.
hopefully this is helpful, is whenever you say, I don't want to, you kind of make a statement about your preference, then ask why. And that's the thought is underneath it. So when you say, I want a glass of wine, why? And it seems stupid to ask that, but when you ask why, it's like, I don't know, what would be your first answer to that?
Mine would be to relax, to chill out, to, decompress, because I earned it. I deserved it. I worked very hard today.
That was mine. I deserved this. I've worked my ass
worked
off today.
so hard today.
Yes. And so but when that's the belief, I deserve this. And then when you start to just question that, you just sit with that. What do you really deserve? Because do you deserve what you feel like in the moment, or do you deserve the results that get created by not giving into the moment? So it's like you start to question your own beliefs or your own thoughts, and in a way that's,
It's interesting when you just said that. I'm like, the question to negate that, to get you into that high results cycle, is what would an 8-figure business owner do?
Totally. That's another good one. Yeah.
They would be in service to the discipline. They would be in service, because me doing 75 hard is not about losing weight, is not about what have you, is about me being, you and I both done it. I completed it ish, and had to start over. And this time I'm like, this 75 hard for me is about meeting my money goal. So what would an
Mm,
8-figure business owner do?
yes. 100%. What would they be thinking? What would they be telling themselves
Would they
about the
be
challenge?
telling them itself about the
Mm,
challenge? Go for a walk, and then part of it is get a good night's sleep, because tomorrow you're on stage all day, which is closing deals, generating
yeah.
opportunities, serving clients, serving your team, what have you.
Yeah.
So even whether I had the glass of wine or not, and whether I woke up in the morning, the feeling is I can't follow through on anything. So then it's just a snowball effect.
Yeah. And
Like,
well,
why
that's the thought.
bother?
That's another
Just
thought. I
quit.
can't follow through.
So if I can't follow through on 75 hard, how the hell am I going to be able to be an 8-figure business owner?
Yeah, it's so interesting. You can see how it's all tied together. And for listeners too, when they're trying to figure out the feeling, it's one word emotion. That's it. If it's a sentence, that's a sentence in your mind. So that's a thought.
Oh,
But so that can help. But so when you just said,
my
you said I
feeling would
can't
be
follow
like
through.
overwhelmed, really overwhelmed or stressed, like, probably,
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
think.
exactly. You feel overwhelmed. You feel, I mean, in some cases, like I felt shame before. It's like, why can't I stick with this?
Yes. Oh,
So I feel
yes.
shame, and shame is the worst.
Oh my God.
Shame
Yeah,
does nothing.
if I can't figure out 75 hard, how the hell am I going to generate, like my client? How am I going to generate $200,000 a month?
Yeah,
I can't even,
yeah,
if I can't,
yeah.
shame is perfect.
And so, and if you start to think about like, how do you said you want to feel disciplined? What would you need to
Yes.
tell yourself that would generate that feeling of discipline? Nothing, you don't even take any action yet. You're just sitting in your chair. But if you want to feel disciplined sitting in your chair, what would have to be happening in your head? Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, it's almost like that. I don't love the word mantra, but it's a power statement of,
Yeah.
for me around discipline is, what would come to my mind is I am absolutely an 8-figure business owner. I can do hard things.
Yes.
I absolutely can do this. I am
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah. I do hard things because fill in the blank. Yeah. And so some people, if they don't feel like they are, this is a trick I learned that helps me so much, is like a bridge thought. So if their thought is low quality and they don't know how to go to high quality, like it feels too opposite. So, I don't follow through on anything. If instead of thinking I follow through on things, or like
Yeah.
doesn't feel believable, you could put it's called a bridge thought in front of it. So I'm becoming a person who follows through on what I say I'm
Oh,
going to do. And then, your brain will buy into it. And so then it actually does generate the feeling that you want to feel if you put the bridge thought, because sometimes it just feels like BS that you're trying to tell yourself.
well, I
So,
love it. You use that follow through one, because many of our listeners are quick starts or
mhm,
entrepreneurs, and they use their low follow through on the Colby A index as a
yeah,
crutch,
yeah,
right? Well, my follow through is in the toilet. I
right.
can't do that. I'm not a follow through, and they use it as a crutch or what have you. But it's not the same as if you're going to get out there and do a webinar or do speaking engagements or whatever it takes for the action that's on your
Yeah,
plan to
yeah,
become the millionaire maker, whatever your goal is.
yeah.
I'm becoming a follow through,
I'm
meaning
becoming a kind of person who follows through on what I say I'm
on
going
the
to do.
plan. It has
Yeah,
nothing to
on the
do with the
plan.
Colby. I just had to
Yeah.
highlight that because people are like, you're always telling me I can't change my Colby. No, 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 no. Nice try. We're not talking about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think, I'm learning to, or I'm becoming the kind of person who, there's so much room for that. It doesn't mean, like, it kind of gives you more creativity with thinking of solutions to become that kind of person. Maybe you hire, if it's 75 hard, maybe you hire a trainer. So you are becoming the kind of person who follows through because you surround yourself with the things that you need to be surrounded with that help you see it through. Like you have a coach. I know you have a coach because I heard the podcast episode and I loved it. I mean, that is a resource that you have surrounded yourself with to to, to help you get to where you want to go. And so it doesn't mean you have to become David Goggins. I don't know if anybody knows who that
Oh
is.
my gosh, yeah. He's speaking
Yeah.
next week at Crisp Summit.
Is
I've
he
listened.
really? Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
And
What a
anyone
cool
who's
guy.
listening, his book is phenomenal. Can't
Oh,
Hurt Me.
so
It
good.
is so good.
The audio version is the
That's what I listened
best.
to. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like
Oh,
17 hours.
yeah, and
I
it's
just rode
so
my new
riveting.
electric bike around that and all summer and fall and just
Oh,
crush
that's
that
so
book.
cool. One more thing I'll say about the high result cycle, low result cycle, because it's easy for people to think this is fluffy. But if you want to be intentional and you start thinking about because you can kind of plug it in at any point. You can plug in the actions you think that you should take if you want to be in a high result cycle and the feeling states that you should be experiencing on purpose that allow you to continue to take the action you need to take. If you're feeling crappy, you don't get out and do the things that you're supposed to be doing. That's just not, that isn't sustainable. It's not aligned. So if you want to take action that's really more uh not effortless, because that's not what it is, but it's a natural flow of, because you feel disciplined, you're gonna do things that are disciplined people do, you know so people can think this is fluffy, and I just want to say, think about your numbers with this in your business. If in the action line you track like a pro and you have KPIs for your team members and goals and your progress to them and whatever, all of that, um, you you do that because you feel a certain something, confidence about yourself as a business owner, maybe, or driven to understand it more deeply, or like, this is the kind of stuff people just stay in confusion and they don't take the right kind of action. Confusion is a feeling state. And
Mhm.
what is happening in your head that is allowing you to just stay in confusion? It's almost like it's happening to you, but this is waking up to see, no, this isn't happening to you. This is maybe you're unaware of it, but it is a choice. What can you choose differently about what you're thinking and what you're feeling to get the nuts and bolts, the nitty gritty of the kind of stuff that needs to be focused on and done? Um, I say that because, I think some people hear this stuff and they think, well, that's not for me. That's not how it works for me. I just take action. I do get things. I do. But if you really slow down to think about, ask yourself, are the results you've gotten, if you're being honest, are they a little slippery? Whether it's a weight goal that you're trying to get to, whether it's a revenue goal, whether it's team, like there's some sort of measurable with team morale. Does it feel like, oh, if I just do the wrong thing, this is all going to fall apart? That's what I
Yes.
mean by slippery results. How can you become the kind of person that can stand on 2 feet around the results you've got, and they're not going anywhere because of who you are? So I think there's something to be looked at for, even if you're super successful, right? You're in high result cycle. Start to cultivate a deeper awareness about it, and you'll go further faster. That's just how it works. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, so fun to talk about this stuff because
Well,
it's
it's so when you say it's you really have given us a high results formula here. I'm
mm-hmm,
really understanding when you're in the cycle, like you said, you're in the low results. It's not good or bad or what have you. Sit in the confusion,
mm-hmm.
but don't stay in the confusion. Own
Yeah.
it, recognize it, what have you. I love Tony Robbins does a whole talk on confusion,
Mm,
and he's like, confusion is a choice. You
yes.
have it. Confusion is also the greatest gift for you because you are on the precipice of a breakthrough.
Yeah.
So when you're feeling confused, same thing with overwhelm. It means
Yeah.
you're just so right there.
Yeah.
So what can I do to your point, name the thoughts, name the
Yes.
feelings, and then get into action to get out
Totally.
of that place.
Totally. So
Love
fun.
that.
This is something we do with our
Yeah, tell
members.
us about Mastery Group because this is coming up soon, right? When
It
do
is.
do
We
doors open?
enrollment is open now. For a few more days left before the end of the quarter. We open up a little bit over a week every single quarter. And Mastery Group is a program that's centered around quarterly strategic planning that I facilitate. And there's accountability and coaching in between. So you make your plan, you know what you're aiming for, you make your plan. And then in between the quarters, it really is all about following through on the plans. And there's a coaching call every single month on result cycles. And it's all of our calls are very workshop style. So you come and I ask questions, you evaluate yourself, you come up with the next couple steps that'll help you move in the direction you want to move. So it's like, that's your time to really think deeply about it. You don't have to do that before you come to the call, but I bring that up because this is one of the calls every month that is the most, members are most engaged because it's so easy to evaluate yourself when you have someone else asking the questions and help. And then it's so easy to see, this is where I'm going wrong here. Like, this is how I could think differently here. Um, of course I'm not taking very good action right now. I feel deflated on all fronts. And so maybe I can use this call to push the reset button. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, Mastery Group is open if your listeners want to check it out. It's a really rich community of people focused on numbers, data, vision, and then mindset. The stuff we
Law
talked about here.
firms, right?
Law
Only.
firm owners only. Yeah.
Yes, law firm owners only. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the website? How can we find it?
It is velocitywork.com/join. And that's
Okay.
and if listeners listen to this after we've already closed the doors, there's always a wait list so that you know the next time it gets opened up, you'll be first to know, and we open it up to the wait list first.
Oh,
So yeah.
great. Oh,
Mm,
excellent. Oh,
yeah.
Melissa, thank you for being my guest again today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and we'll put the link in the show notes. Then we will also go ahead and I'm going to put your 75 Hard podcast with Chris
Oh, cool.
from Springs Law Group in there because I just loved it. I listened to it again this weekend. I'm like, I'm doing it. Chris did it. Melissa did it. I'm doing it.
Oh, that's awesome. I
Yes.
can't wait to hear more about your journey with that.
And
For
have an
sure.
amazing retreat with your team.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah. I have goosebumps and butterflies. I'm excited for it.
Oh, all right. Until next
Bye.
time, continue being legal leaders, leading legal leaders team. We've reached the end of another impactful conversation on the Hire and Empower podcast. Whether this was your first episode or you're a longtime listener, I know you can tell I have passion for people. Whether you're a business owner, employee, executive, or hiring manager, I understand the situation you're in. Hiring, onboarding, and leadership is expensive, exhausting, overwhelming, and if that's not enough, it's also time-consuming. My friends, it doesn't have to be this way. There is a team at H&E that has your back. For over 25 years, they've transformed over 4,000 law firms into efficient, effective, profitable assets for their business and made it fun to come to work again. Check out our Smart Hire solution, our employee leadership program, and the 66-day law firm turnaround at hiringandempowering.com.